Hey everybody, thanks for checking out this video and for hanging in there. You're almost done. You're getting close to the end of the semester here. We've got a couple of more texts, and what's really wonderful is the opportunity to take a look at a prose text, which can be easier to read than some of the poetry and some of the plays that we've read this semester, and one that's more modern as we're seeing modern English become more and more closer to what we speak now. So Gulliver's Travels, written by Jonathan Swift, and it's likely that you've had some experience with this. There's been movies, cartoons made. It's a text that shows up a lot because it's the story of the very small people and Gulliver's interactions with them. But I want us to dig a little bit deeper into this text and what it's supposed to be doing. So the text is a satire. Now, satire can be one of those terms that we fill up with whatever we want. But in Swift's day, and really in our day, in pure satire, we have this idea that satire comments on things and trends that are going on in the world, and they use it by creating a realistic scenario that just, if you look at it just a little bit sideways, seems to comment on what's going on in the real world. So some modern day examples of that would be something like The Onion. So if you've read anything by The Onion and seen some of their videos, they present it as an actual journalistic news site with videos and articles, but it's not true. It's designed to present a picture that comments on the rest of the world. Speaking pictures, if we might use Sydney's term. Another example would be something like Saturday Night Live. Now, it's a comedy show, but it is designed to take what's going on in the world and look at it in a funny way, and oftentimes try to teach us. I think they focus more on entertainment than teaching, following Sydney's model, but that's also because they're a comedy. If you look at it from a few years ago, now Stephen Colbert is now the host of the CBS Late Show, but previously, before that, he was with Comedy Central and did the Stephen Colbert Show, where he took on this sort of hard-nosed, journalistic, which you might see on cable news, commentary, which was designed to show in some ways the ridiculousness of it. So that's what Gulliver's after here, is that he's telling a unique story. Now, obviously, there is no land that we're going to sail to that has very small people in it and their whole organizations, but it is a realistic idea that this could happen in his interactions with people if this were to happen. So the story is a bit fantastic, but it has relationships with what he's seeing in the world and what he wants to try and fix and present as a problem that he wants to solve. So I want to look at, there's several topics you can choose from, and in your discussion board prompt, I've asked you to consider several different topics and pick one of them that is of particular interest to you and show how Gulliver uses the tale to point to these things. And four in particular I want to bring to your attention are these four here, starting with government leadership. And you have the emperor himself, right? The king, who is both presented as gracious at the beginning, but then we see him begin to show some pretty ridiculous standards, including the people that he surrounds him with and the things that they're telling him. One particular image that's powerful in this regard is the feats of wonder and strength, and which sound to us like a circus performance, but it's how one of the major ways that they determine who's leading in the government. Which, if you can think about how ridiculous that is, like this person who's able to walk a tightrope best is the best suited in order to run the government. That seems off, and I think what Swift is going after there is a commentary on how political leaders earn their positions. He says some interesting things about family and how they separate males and females and do not let them be educated together, but at the same time, the family has almost no influence on them at all. So this is Swift's commentary on boarding schools, which were the standard way of schooling in his time. He focuses on the big disagreements within the country and ultimately with the country across the water about their religious political groups and what they actually disagree with. And you'll see that some of them talk about the size of the heel, right? That's the differences in the religious groups, and the differences in the political groups are which side of an egg that you should crack on. And it's designed to sound ridiculous because what Swift wants to point to is a lot of our religious disagreements and a lot of our political disagreements are over things that ultimately don't matter that much, but we will invest so much energy into them. Something like whether or not we break an egg on the small end or the large end, and this story leads to the death of 11,000 people. And is Swift right? Probably not, but it does make us pause and consider just how important are the things that we're allowing to divide us. And then finally, in Law and Order, and thinking about how they begin to turn against Gulliver after he rescues the queen and puts out a fire at the palace by urination, but this becomes a huge offense. And then you start to see well, we always thought you were one of those big enders anyway, in terms of which side you cracked the egg. And so he begins to sense things starting to change on him, not because of anything he did that was dishonorable, but because of how they attached that to him. So it doesn't take much, no matter what political side you are on, to see that Gulliver's Travels continues to have a relevance to us today. Spend any time on social media or in the comment sections of a news article to watch people do the exact same thing that the Lilliputians do in this story, and the way that they determine things of value and other stuff. The value for reading something like Gulliver's Travels is that it just makes us go, wait a minute, am I guilty of this stuff too? Do I do something with that? And so in many ways, I think Gulliver follows Sidney's prescription of teaching and delighting in order to prompt virtue, because we might ask the same question of, at the end of the day, am I disagreeing over which side of an egg to crack first, or the size of a heel, or something like that? So I do hope that you will enjoy reading this text, and if you want to dig around on YouTube and look for some of the productions of it that are available, be my guest. Just remember that we want to deal with the text itself. So I hope that I hope this video was helpful for you in unpacking this, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Thanks.